started. My name is Erica Aguilar. I'm a peer advisor for the Department of Child Development. I'm so glad that you guys made it out. So we had Dr. David Kretschner and Dr. Joyce Bursting who are here. Well, Dr. David is here from the Ag program, and Dr. Bursting is here from the Department of Early Education to speak of the K-12 Teachers Program and the Ag program, which is the Accelerated Credential Training Program, which I'm sure you guys are aware of. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this presentation and jot down any question that you guys have so you guys can ask afterwards and get them answered.
So are we going to be able to turn off one light, or do you need the lights for the video?
I'm sure I can. Okay, sorry. Is that perfect?
Okay, well, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Dr. Burstein, and I've been teaching in the elementary education department for 12 years. I teach social studies, multicultural ed, and arts education, and have taught in several of the pathways from the ACT program to the traditional to the undergraduate program. And Dr. Kretschmer.
I've been here, this is my 26th year here at CSUN. I've done a variety of things in the department, supervised student teachers, teach methods courses, primarily in the area of science, or in the ITEP program, which is an undergraduate program of science and social studies. I was department chair for 6 years. That ended about 3 years ago or so. I am, one of my main responsibilities in the college in my department is to coordinate the Accelerated Collaborative Teacher Preparation Program, or ACT program. And we will be, I'll be able to talk with you a little bit about that this afternoon.
Okay, so first we're going to give you some background on the need for elementary teachers, and then we're going to go in and talk about the different requirements that you can take, as well as some of the classes that you can take prior to getting into the program for any elementary education credential program. So the statistics say that this is the largest amount of growth that's going to be happening in the next 10 years or so. In 2008 to 2018, we went from 1,549,500 to 1.7 million, an increase of 244,000 teachers. And so as the veteran teachers are retiring, they're getting replaced with the newer teachers that are coming on board into the elementary schools. The Center for Future of Teaching and Learning shows that there's going to be at least 7% growth across the next 5 to 10 years. And so this is a great opportunity to get into a field that if you're interested in working with children and of course your child development, this might be a pathway that you might be interested in. While you're thinking about being a teacher, you are working on your bachelor's degree for child adolescent development. And so you need a BA in order to get into the credential program. The preliminary multiple subject credential program is a program that you do after your BA, and we're going to talk about 2 different pathways of how you could do that. The clear credential is after you get all your coursework and your student teaching, is a few more classes that you need to take and some induction classes at the school site to help you kind of roll into teaching and try to get some experience around that. And then specialist credentials are credentials that you can get over and beyond your elementary teaching credential. You can get a specialist credential in bilingual, so if you're bilingual and you want to teach in 2 different languages, you can get that. That's called an E-class. You can also get a reading specialist credential, where you get several classes that focus on literacy to help struggling readers and writers and children who have rural language needs. There's also a math specialist credential that's being developed now on our campus, that if you have an aptitude for math, you can go in that direction and teach mathematics education to elementary kids for pull-out or as a specialist in an elementary school. So these are the different types of credentials and the different roads that you're going to be going on in order to get into the teaching profession. Do you want to add anything to that?
Well, you can even continue on beyond that. We offer master's degree programs to the department, and sort of master's degrees are available elsewhere. And we have some students returning now that are getting into the doctoral program that we offer through the College of Ed. They want to be school leaders in some capacity, either as a principal, assistant superintendent, superintendent of schools, and so forth like that. So the opportunities for growth as a teacher, as an educator, are tremendous. There's no ceiling that is being placed before you in terms of how far you can go into. Well, Joyce and I were both teachers. I taught at high school, middle school, and elementary school. And Joyce, you?
Yeah, and I started out with a BA in music and history, and then I got my teaching credential, and I taught elementary school, and I went on for my master's and then my PhD. So, you just kind of keep going forward as you become, kind of a lifelong learner. You just decide, oh, I need more help, or I need more information, or I need more research, and then you can continue on that road. So the options that we have here is something that you'd be very interested in doing, because right now you're going through the program in child adolescent development. And so there are some courses that you can take as an undergraduate that you can apply towards your teaching credential. The first one is called EPC or EED 500, and that's a fundamentals of teaching course. It's kind of a developmental course to get you into learning theory. It gets you thinking about lesson planning and just talking about the developmental pieces of what happens with elementary children. Of course, you have a leg up because your major is that, so you're coming in with a lot more information than most people come in as a fifth-year student. So that's one course you can take. So it's EPC 500 or EED 500, and they're both equivalent courses. The next course that you can take in our department is EED 515, and that's a technology course. It's a technology and how to use technology in elementary school. So it teaches you basic programs that you need to know as an elementary teacher, and it also teaches you what you can use with the students in the classroom. The next course that you can take is it's a diversity course, and you notice there's so many prefixes to this. You can take it in Ed Leadership, you can take it in Chicano Studies, Pan-African Studies, Asian American Studies, and Armenian Studies, and Equity and Diversity in Schools. And that gives you an overview of kind of the multicultural piece and the kinds of children that you're going to be having in your classrooms, and how you can work with different cultural groups, how you can work with parents, how you can look at research behind what happens in diversity in elementary schools. And then the last class that you can take is a health course, and this is called Teaching Health in the Elementary School. And this is a 1-unit course that runs for 8 weeks. You go and you learn all about health education, nutrition, how to teach about the food pyramid, all that type of thing. It's a 1-unit course, and it gives you kind of an opportunity to kind of integrate that with science and other types of things in the classroom. So those 4 courses, you've got 3, 2, 3, and 1. You can take those courses as a junior and senior before you get into the credential program. The beauty of this is if you take these courses before you graduate, you're actually saving money, because when you take it at the graduate level, there's a little higher fee structure, right?
It costs you more per unit to at the graduate level, credential level, than it does at the undergraduate level.
Right. And so you have your BA, and then 30 units for your credential, but you can subtract these units from the 30, and you're already just taking a few more units to get your teaching credential. So that's the benefit of thinking about this now, and then kind of rolling into it either in your junior or senior year if you want to do that. There's 2 different kinds of programs. The 5th-year program, I'm going to talk a little bit about. Should I do that now?
Sure.
Okay. So the 5th-year program, let me send out a brochure.
Brochure, that's right.
The 5th-year program is something that you need to apply to, and it's an extra year, year and a half, or 2 years after you get your BA. So if you take some of the classes, those 4 classes ahead of time, it'll probably take you 3 or 4 semesters to finish. And the brochure, if you open up the page here, the insert page, this gives you a schedule of taking credential classes over 3 semesters, and which classes you should take, and then over 4 semesters. And the first set of classes, you would take the EPC 500, so if you already took it, then that's done. The 520 class is a reading methods class. You've got your equity and diversity, so if you take that now, that would be done. And then the 515 technology course, that would be done as well. So you would only your first semester have 2 courses that you need to take. You can also roll into the second semester if you take these courses already. So you can see there's language arts, there's writing, there's mathematics, science, social studies, PE, and health and technology. The thing that people ask the most questions about is student teaching. And student teaching is arranged around your coursework where you go into an elementary classroom, and first semester student teaching, you spend about 4 hours, the first half of the day, learning how to teach reading, writing, oral language, and ELD, which is second language development, or English as a second language, and mathematics. And so you would spend 4 hours with a teacher who's already in the classroom, guiding you through the process, teaching you how to lesson plan, teaching you how to work with the children, how to think about teaching certain subject matter. And then in your second semester of student teaching, that's called all-day student teaching, where you basically spend the entire day of an elementary school teacher in the classroom with them, learning how to teach all the subject areas. So you get to teach social studies and science and things like that. So this 5th-year program, if you take in those 4 classes now, you could probably finish in 2 or 3 semesters if you choose to do that. The other thing that you need to know is that you need to pass this thing called the PATH assessment, and it's basically learning how to use language arts and mathematics, science, and social studies in a way that passes a test that happens with the state. So we as instructors help integrate those tasks into our courses so that you can successfully pass the state assessment.
Do you take that while you're in your credentials?
Yes, you do. So the last semester of student teaching, you'll take your PACT final video tape, and then the other courses, math, science, and social studies, it's integrated in the course. So the professor has certain assignments they're doing for the course, but they also include a state assessment along with it, so that you don't have to take something extra and over that. Would you like to talk about the PACT program?
Sure. The other pathway for post-baccalaureate students is something I've already referred to. It's the Accelerated Collaborative Teacher Preparation Program, otherwise known as ACT. And I'm sure that's coming around for you. ACT has a lot of similarities to the traditional pathway. Many of the courses are the same, some of the courses differ. One key feature about the ACT program is that it's really for full-time students. We recruit in spring and summer for a fall startup. We only have a fall startup. So it works well for those of you who will be graduating in spring, right after, if you wish to go into the ACT program. It's full-time because we put you through a lot in those 2 semesters. If you open up your brochure, you can see on the inside here, we have arranged, we have the fall classes on the left-hand side, we have the spring classes on the right-hand side. You'll notice that in the fall semester, it's 23 units for those who need all of the classes. Okay? In the spring, it is 17 units for those who need all of the classes. But just as with a traditional program, you can already have taken fundamentals of teaching course, the technology in schools, and the teaching health course. You'll notice that we have a little different equation down here, where this is 39 minus 9, this is 40 minus 6. And that is because we ask all students in the ACT program to participate in, if you're looking at your course schedule at the top here, what we call the Common Core class. The Common Core class is designed for all students in the program. It addresses 2 major foundational areas that we think that all teachers need to have, and that is diversity in schools, which is the equivalent to the ELPS, CHS, PANA, PAS, AAS, Armenian 417 class. But it also has content for another class that everybody will have to take in the traditional program, and that is special ed. Okay? So what we do in the core class is we combine those 2 areas, diversity and special ed into a core class that continues throughout the year. Okay, and that's why we're not asking you to not. We're not asking you to not take 417. But if you're coming into the ACT program, we will have you participate in the core class. Okay. So if you've already completed 6 units up here in terms of the pre-courses there, the program for you would consist of 34 units. Okay. ACT is different than the traditional pathway in that it is cohorted, which means that we put you in, we recruit as a group of students, and you travel through the program together as a group of students. It's very important, it's a very important feature of our program, providing the support structure that all students need to be successful in this program. Okay? Again, we're asking you to do 40 units across 2 semesters. For everybody who needs it, for you it would be 34 units across 2 semesters. It's a very rigorous program, and we rely on the support of faculty, coordinators such as myself, fellow students in the program to help each other through. Okay? So I guess should we move on then? Any questions about the traditional pathway or the ACT pathway, how they are similar, how they are different?
Not yet.
Not yet? Maybe towards the end? I'm not sure where we are. Have we cut and through this, or should I just go ahead and okay, all right. So as we've talked about a bit before, what we provide through the Department of Elementary Education in terms of multiple subject programs, you have some coursework that's related to foundation. We've already talked about the EPC or EED 500 course. I've already mentioned the Special Ed 420 course, which you take further along the program. We've also talked about the diversity course. Those are all what we consider to be foundation courses, okay, upon which you will build a very strong knowledge base related to teaching those specific subject areas in the elementary classroom. Okay, so foundations upon which we build methods. Okay, we have methods courses. What is very unique about our department is that we have specialists who are teaching those methods courses. We have math specialists teaching math methods to elementary school teachers, science specialists, social studies specialists. Okay. People in kinesiology, people in health science. And this is very, very unique to, you don't find that in a lot of programs across the nation. You'll get a general methods course through which you learn general pedagogy for how to teach in an elementary school classroom. In our program, you learn how to teach mathematics, you learn how to teach science, you learn how to teach social studies, reading, and so forth like that. So we think that we have a very strong base in that. And then Dr. B has already talked to you about the clinical practice aspect of it. We send you out for 2 semesters for student teaching. The first semester is our methods areas. The areas are reading, language arts, ELD, and mathematics. Your second semester, we start you off where you ended your first semester. In other words, teaching in the areas of reading, language arts, mathematics in a new grade level, a new school, and then we build the other content areas through. So that by the time that you complete the program, we're confident that you have beginning knowledge and skills to be able to teach in the 7 core areas that you're responsible for as an elementary school teacher. Reading, language arts, math, science, social studies, health, kinesiology, and the arts.
Okay, so there are some assessments that have to happen if you want to be an elementary teacher. The first one is called the CBEST. It's a very basic skills test that you take to see whether you can read, write, and do a 5th grade math. And so that's one class that you need, one state assessment that you need to take. And there's books that you can use to study for it, or you can use some of the 5th grade books to kind of, study up on the math and some of the concepts.
Can I clarify a point on that? There is another option for meeting the basic skills requirement, and that is to complete, we will talk very shortly about the 3 CSET subtests that you have to take, regardless, coming into a multiple subject credential program. You have to take those 3 subtests of the CSET. If you do those 3 subtests of the CSET and you do the CSET writing exam, you won't have to do the CTest. Okay, you've already met the basic skills through the CSET. More and more students are taking CSET plus CSET writing, more and more applicants, because they don't have to pay for the CBAS and then take the CSET, okay?
So there's an option there.
There's an option, okay? Just wanted to point that out. So.
And then also there's the subject matter CSET, math, language arts, science, social studies, arts, and child development is all part of a test. They portion them out in different sections, but it covers all these content areas. And you need to pass those with a certain score in order to get into the credential program. At the exit level, that means while you're in the program, there is another lovely test called the RECA. And that's basically asking you, do you know about grammar, do you know about phonics, and teaching reading and writing. And so that test, you will have a couple of classes that will prepare you for passing the RECA. And there is also study sessions. Several of the faculty do free study sessions with you to help you pass the RECA. And then I talked to you a little bit about the PACT. That's that state assessment that's kind of incorporated in several methods classes, as well as the language arts one where you videotape yourself and then you write up how you taught, how you plan, how you assess, things like that. Why do you have to do all this? Because people want you to be highly qualified to teach their children. And we know that it seems like a lot of hoops to jump through, but you would want somebody very competent teaching children. And I'm sure all of you are that kind of student. So that's why they've decided to have these extra assessments.
Are there test prep resources on campus for the CSET and the CBAS?
Sometimes faculty run workshops, and Dr. Kreshner.
There are, Extended Learning offers some test prep classes. I'm not suggesting necessarily jump to those. There are some resources that are out there, a number of CSET prep books where they offer you practice tests and they review content, so look like that. As I interview the students that are coming to the ACT program and they have not passed the CSET, I often suggest to them there are 4 books what every 4th grader needs to know, every 5th grader needs to know, every 6th grader needs to know. Those are going to be some sort of resources for you as well. They cover the content that kids at the upper elementary level should know by the time that they leave that particular grade level. And those are proving to be pretty good resources for applicants who still have to pass the CSET. Okay?
And for the writing part of it, is there
I do not know of resources for the writing piece of that, but you may want to look at SANG, College of Extended Learning on campus, and see if they might have a test prep course there. Okay.
Any questions? Now that we've shown you all the requirements, the courses, the tests, and everything, we just put up a couple of bullets about why it's worth it to go through all that trouble to do it. I was just in a classroom today. I was teaching 4th graders how to do an integrated sculpture and Chumash resource lesson. It's so gratifying and so energizing to be able to work with children. Even though I work mostly with adults now, I always go back to the classroom every single year because working with children pulls me back to the reality of being a teacher and knowing what I need to know in order to teach teacher candidates. So it's a really great way to kind of get that instant gratification working with children. You have a baccalaureate degree in child development, and that is something that you can create a career with teaching. So teaching just isn't a job, it's really a career path that you can go down. Since you're a child development specialist, you love children, or you love working with children, and so this is a natural extension of that. And you actually do make a difference. About 6 months ago, I walked into the elevator and there was a student in there, and she was really seriously staring at me. And I thought, okay, do I have like makeup somewhere? You know, did I have a pimple or something like that? I'm like, why are you staring at me? And then she kind of tilted her head and she said, Mrs. Burstein? And I'm like, yes. It was a student that I had had when she was in 6th grade, and her name was Ada. And Ada said, you made the total difference in my life because without you, I wouldn't be here in college. And she was studying to be a teacher. And I swear to you, that really happened. And every once in a while, I'll be walking in a grocery store, and then adults will come up to me and say, do you remember me? I was in your 4th grade class. Do you remember me? I was in your 3rd grade class. I mean, you do make a difference. Sometimes you can't tell right away, but years and years go by, and sometimes you see the full circle come back to you, and that really is why I teach. That's the only reason. It's not me. Right?
Very true.
Okay. I think that's our last slide.
Yeah.
Oh, and now it's question and answer time.
So you guys mentioned about taking the ALPS 417 and HSCI.
465.
Is there any prerequisites to that? For us to enroll in that?
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. These 4 classes that Dr. B had talked about are under what the Credential Office considers to be intent to apply courses. They are open to students who file a very modest application with the Credential Office of their intent to apply to the credential program at some future date. Kat, am I on target with this? Mm-hmm. Okay. And so you have to fill out this little intent to apply application. You are then included in the credential admissions report, and any department who is offering these courses will let you into those classes. Okay? But you do have to have this particular status. It's called intent to apply. You go to the Credential Office website. You'll find that form there. You can download it. You submit it to the Credential Office, and everything's cool and groovy. Okay? Okay.
They also require a $25 money order and I want to say fingerprints or TB test. TB test.
Probably TV.
Probably TB test. Okay. And does that $25 apply to your credential, or do you have to resubmit? You have to pay the piper again when you actually submit your credential?
Yeah, I don't think it applies to anything in the future. I think just so they can get it through with admissions and records to allow you to register for the courses. Other questions?
Once you're a junior, you can apply.
The application for fall, they have a priority deadline of April 1st. That's a priority deadline. I get people applying to the app program in late July. Okay? If you do not yet have all of your requirements met, in other words, basic skills, CSET, et cetera, they probably will not take your application that early because they want to encourage you to go out and get those things completed. Okay? So if you miss the priority deadline, don't panic. Okay? But begin working, well, now if you're ready to take the CSET now, you want to begin to kind of be thinking along the lines for when you're going to get these things taken care of. Okay? So if you're applying for fall, that means you're a senior now, and yes, you can certainly get that, start to get those ducks in order. The application process in the credential program is rather lengthy. It requires a statement of objectives from you. It requires 2 letters of recommendation. It requires that you be fingerprinted, and that fingerprint is cleared by the FBI and the Department of Justice. You need to get TB tested. You need to take the CSET, pass the sections of the CSET. Meet the basic skills requirement.
And you can get your TB testing here on campus at the health center. It's $5.
Recommendation letters.
Yes.
Who do you suggest we get them from? Can I get them from other departments?
Absolutely, absolutely. You
And
can.
can I get one from an internship? Can I get one from my first teacher?
I think your internship, I think your recommendation from your internship teacher would be a great way, because you're out in the schools working with kids, right? So 2, it should be professional with reference your character, who you are as an individual, as well as your academic skills as much as possible. want to make it as rosy but truthful a statement about you. Okay? And so you want to select those carefully. Okay? Make sure that they're dated. Letterhead is very, very important with a wet signature. You know what I mean by wet signature? In other words, it's been signed. Okay? Now, as you submit stuff to the credential office, they're not asking that necessarily that you submit originals to everything, but they want to verify originals against a copy. So as you are submitting your, if you, for example, you signed up for the CSUN test, you forgot to mark down that you wanted your scores sent to CSU Northridge, you will get a copy of your scores. You bring a copy, you'll get an official copy of your scores. You'll bring a copy of your official scores in with you. They will check the copy against the original. They will stamp the copy as verified and you'll take your originals back with you.
Okay.
So do not submit originals to the credential office, but you have to verify originality in any copies that you're making. Sorry, that was a long-winded response, but these are some of the details for how to work with the credential office. No, things can get misplaced, particularly if there may be a time when there's a long line at that counter, and you're walking in to submit your credential application, and things get here, things get there, and things get shuffled around. So just always document everything that you're submitting, okay? I mean, we are a big university here, so yes.
So as an undergrad, there's an IT program. What is it, a freshman or junior course?
There is a, ITEP is an undergraduate blended credential program. There is a freshman option for those who enter the program as freshmen. And then there's a junior option for those who wish to enter the ITEP program as juniors, either after completing their 60 units of undergraduate coursework, their general ed, and then they begin to take their upper division subject matter coursework and the credential coursework, and they finish in generally two semesters, maybe plus an additional semester. It depends on how much they're going, how quickly they're going after it. So you're a child and adolescent development major? Okay, so you're a sophomore right now. Okay, well, if there's any chance that you may be able to switch over to who would be a liberal studies undergraduate degree, I suggest that you make an appointment with liberal studies now to make sure that, so that you will not have to go back and to repeat a number of courses that will count both as your GE and your subject matter requirements for liberal studies. That's where the run comes with liberal studies. Okay? So it may be prudent for you to continue on your path in CADV, go all the way through, and then select a post-bac, either the traditional or the active pathway.
So the ITEP is just for season.
Right.
Yes, it's liberal studies, either the entire program through 4 years of liberal studies for freshman option, or 2 years of liberal study. Having met the GE requirements for liberal studies, that also count towards your subject matter. That's the tricky bit right there for somebody in your case coming in now as a sophomore, maybe wishing to join the ITEP program as a junior. So check that out. Okay?
I was looking at master's programs, and I saw that you had a master's in special education with a credential combination.
Yes, that's through the Department of Special Education, and what you would do is you would graduate with your CADV degree, and then you would apply to the Department of Special Ed, which is a sister department to us, but they have different requirements that we have. But they also have an ACT program that you can apply for in special ed.
And that is, you're talking specifically about ACTAR. ACTAR stands for ACT Residency Program. It is a dual credential and master's program.
I thought it was only for this year.
It may only be for this year because it was grant funded, and I believe that this may be the last year. But you'll have to check with the other Burstein in our college, Dr. Nancy Burstein, who runs that program. and it was a program that provided stipends for students so that they could really focus in on their studies. It's about an 18-month program, credential and master's.
Department was that?
Special education. So that you're entering a completely different field,
Yes.
working with kids. So make sure you check that out as well.
Am I able to work in a regular classroom if I get it?
If you were lucky enough to get into an inclusion, a school that offers inclusion programs, very robust inclusion programs, but you would not be a general ed teacher coming out.
There's no way to get a general credential and a master's in special ed?
Yes.
Or,
Yes, you can.
One would precede the other, though.
Right.
You get your credential in general ed, then you go to special ed, and you would apply to the master's program.
Right.
do you also need a credential in special ed to work with special ed students, or will that master's overcome the credential?
That's a good question.
You need a credential. You need to be credentialed in the state of California to teach. They're not so concerned about the master's program. They're concerned about your credential. And a master's program, now, get clarity from special ed on this.
Yeah.
Okay? I don't know how much overlap there is between the credential and special ed, no, I'm getting all mixed up here now. So you get a credential in general ed, multiple subject credential, you get a master's in special ed. Those are going to be two distinct programs, really. And the master's in special ed would not qualify you, according to the state, to teach special ed students because you're not credentialed. You haven't gone through an approved, state-approved credential program to qualify you as a special educator or an education specialist. Okay?
So definitely talk to the other Dr. Burstein about it. She'll give you the scope.
Nancy first.
Nancy. Other questions?
Did we just clarified things so well for you, or just use the tag?
Do you need to have a connection to be a substitute, or how does that work?
Well, in the past, you didn't have to have a credential to be a substitute. But now with so many teachers getting their credential, and then there was a little bit of a job dip the last few years, many of the substitutes already have credentials, so they would take priority over you. You can still apply, but they would be prioritized because they already have a teaching credential. But it used to be you didn't need to have one, but it's pretty much changed now.
Yeah, and generally now what you need a BA degree, you do a pass the CSUN, and then you apply to the state for an emergency permit credential. But as Dr. Burstein has said, that a lot of the substitute teachers are tied in with schools pretty tightly. So maybe if I'm a substitute teacher, I would make myself available to substitute teach in these 3 elementary schools. They know me well. They know how efficient I am and how proficient I am in terms of leading a class during the absence of a teacher and that sort of thing. So, but technically, undergraduate degree, CBEST, and then apply to the state for emergency substitute credential. Which I think it's good for about 6 months of it. Then you have to reapply. Best to get your credential and
Other questions? Well, we're available to talk. As you can see on the brochure, Dr. Irene Kota is really the pathway leader for the 5th year program, but I'm happy to talk to you as well.
she's teaching class right now.
Yeah, she's teaching class, so we're going to make it. And Dr. Krishner is available to chat about the ACT program if you're interested in going in that direction.
Perfect. I guess this concludes this wonderful presentation. Can we all give a round of